Okay, we are recording.
Okay, thanks for telling me.
Are you ready to go?
Uh-huh.
So, loads of energy. Get in there. Raw, come on. That's what we want.
I quit. I'm done.
Hello and welcome to the It Depends podcast, your alternative guide to the often mystifying world of psychometrics. In each episode, your hosts, myself, Tim Burnett, and the brilliant Dr. Amanda Danis will serve you a cocktail of psychometric wisdom garnished with a twist of sarcasm and humour. Our mission, to help you actually enjoy the process of building better tests. So grab your favourite beverage and get ready to dive into the awesome world of psychometrics. Hello, welcome to the It Depends podcast. Myself, Tim Burnett. I'm here with Amanda Danis. Welcome to another episode where we try and unpick psychometrics and make it more accessible and interesting for everyone out there involved in testing. In this episode, this is a special episode, isn't it, Amanda? We're going to be talking about vendor shopping. And this is for anyone that's heading off to Innovations in Anaheim or any other conferences where there's going to be exhibitors along with all their wares and systems out there to show. So how are you doing, Amanda? How are things?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent.
It is one of my favorite topics to talk about. I just did a session on this with Cynthia from Seacrest and Adrian from PTI, and it was really well received, I think, because a lot of groups, this is a really important topic, right? They need to pick a platform. They need to pick a remote proctor. They need to pick a test center, all the things. And if you don't even know what to ask, you can get in some trouble. So it's something that we do a lot with our clients is we'll just sit on calls with them and make sure that they're asking the right questions. So I think it's a great topic to choose, especially before you go to a conference and you get sort of swayed by all the good swag that's there. Who has the best chocolate? Who has a good drawing? Who has a ping pong table?
It's all these marketing tactics. So if you don't know, listener, my background is working in marketing in the space. So I've been working with platforms and technologies out there to try and sell and promote their solutions. And Amanda, I suppose you're on the other side of the fence. You've been, like you say, you've been helping people find those solutions and plot them. So we've got a series of questions, and as ever, if you've got a question, listener, you want answering, then please do send it in. If you go to the It Depends podcast homepage, which is on the Test Community Network, you can ask a question away there. And as part of this episode as well, we're going to be asking a bonus question to Amanda, but you can only hear Amanda's answer to that on the Test Community Network website. So, but let's get going now.
Is it worth extra credit to me if I answer it well?
Always. Absolutely. Always. Interesting. Credit is coming into the Test Community Network at some point as well. So anyway, so you go out there, you find a platform and you set up all your questions and all your items. So I'm thinking here about kind of the world of having an exit strategy. So how important is it for you to own your own data as part of that purchasing process and your use of the platform? What do you think?
Well, I think most people, if they're listening, hopefully they're listening, and they're thinking, what do you mean own your own data? Of course, it's my data. Like, sure, it's your intellectual property. And by own your own data, it's one of my pet peeves that with some of the larger groups, I would say, some of the groups that are not really software as a service, and you have an account manager, to get your data out is incredibly difficult. And even just to pull it down and dirty is what I call it. Just, just send me the raw data of the last, 2 months. I just want to take a quick look and see how your items are doing. And I have groups that say that will cost me $3,000 to pull out my data and it will take 30 days. And I'm like, what? So I think it's a really important thing to ask is what is the process for getting item stats out, the psychometrics? What is the process for getting my item bank out if I do want to leave or I want to make edits outside of the platform? What does that look like? It shouldn't be behind the curtain that you can't even get to your own stuff or that it costs an extra amount to get to it. And I will probably make some enemies with these statements today, but it's just something I believe really, really strongly. And as a consultant, we get a lot of groups that can't get us their data and it takes them a really long time. And if they're leaving that platform, they put a request in to get their data out. Sometimes their contract ends before they even get their item bank. And then they're just like chasing the people like, hey, can I get this? And it's kind of a mess. So I really like the software as a service platforms where you can choose to have somebody manage it for you, or you can manage it yourself. It depends on the size of your program and your resources, but getting your data is really important.
I think it's hugely important, I think it's not just sometimes the bigger players. When you're using the platform, you're setting those questions up yourself. You need to be looking for those features where you can take those exports, those CSV downloads, those dumps. You need to have access, and I think because that's sometimes the barrier a little bit, because you're not directly in the platform. Someone's doing everything for you sometimes.
Yeah,
that's when you don't have access to it. But you need to be looking and checking within the platform that you're using. If you are doing it yourself direct into a solution, you need to be looking for those options. And I think the other thing to be aware of is, I think a lot of cases, particularly if we're talking to the American market, we're talking about multiple choice questions where they're easier to export, aren't they? You've got STEM, you've got response options and information and the data that goes with it. But if you start using more advanced item types, you need to be careful of how can I access those? How can I transfer those if I need to at some point? Yeah.
So how do you get that content out so that it's transferable to another platform? If you're talking about SJTs or drag and drops, all of that stuff, what does that export look like? I mean, that's something that you can ask about when you're shopping is, okay, if I want to do video stems, or I want to do schematics that are movable, and I want to design these really cool items on your platform, which is awesome. Let's say I want to leave. What is the content that comes out to me? And what does that look like? Is it a proprietary file type that I can only use on your platform? And then you're kind of stuck. So those are really good questions to ask. I didn't even think about that for those innovative item types, but you don't want to lose all that work.
You don't know. And I suppose we've started this thinking of the end, but that's what you need to do. You're going to, at some point, you are going to leave that platform or that provider, or they're going to give up the business or move over, get purchased by another supplier as well.
Yeah,
that's something
happens a lot in this industry.
And so having that exit strategy at the start of the relationship is quite an important thing. But let's say you've got over that kind of problem, looking at the other features and things that are in there. So what do you think about it? Because obviously you do a lot of psychometric processing the data. Is it always important to have, let's say, a full suite of psychometric reports embedded in the platform, or would you rather be in a position where you could just download those as raw CSVs? What's your kind of preference there?
That's a great question, and my preference is it depends. Shockingly, it's the first time I've said it today. It depends on what those reports look like. So sometimes the reports that you get out they were built based on one customer, like maybe the first large customer that came along to that platform, whose psychometricians helped them design what that should look like, or what that psychometrician thought it should look like. And then it's not something that is really super usable to other people, or it doesn't come out in a format that is transferable into how you want it.
So, raw enough, maybe.
Raw enough. So yes, if it gets you item to scrim off the bat, awesome. Does that include cleaned data? Does that include your test data? Does that include your QAing response strings? What does that look like? There's lots of little things in there. So I would want two things. One is, can you give me a nice report if I want to do a down and dirty quick check on things? But two, can you give me, we call them the ones and zeros in my team. I want to know per candidate, per item, a 1 for correct answer, a 0 for wrong answer. If it's a graded response model, what does the key code look like for that? But I want it down to that rawness. I want to be able to get that out so that I can do whatever I want with it. And that's really important.
And I suppose that's important for you because you're someone who's going to be doing that work. I think when other people might look at it and they think, well, we'll just have a psychometrician look at this, then you need to be working alongside your psychometrician who's going to be involved in the process to make sure they're getting the data and the information that they want. And it's accurate, isn't it? It matches your profile, I suppose, as well.
Yes. And I mean, if they can give you a quick reliability estimate, that's great. Do you know 100% for sure that it's not including any test string data that is a QA, or that is somebody that, shouldn't be in there for whatever reason. What is involved in doing that? And so I like both. I mean, both features are great. And if you do have a psychometrician, you're not using your platform psychometrician, they are somebody to ask this question of, right? Which, I'm shopping around. You do my annual health checks or my annual operational validity reports. What do you want this data to look like? How should it look? It's one of the first things that we do when we sign on a new client and they're using a different platform, because we're platform agnostic. We work with a lot of different ones. Say, what does your data export look like? And it actually affects our cost of doing that. Like, how much do we have to do to the data that you export to get it in a usable fashion for us? So that's a really important question. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Next kind of question then is, so let's say you're looking to do the kind of full suite end to end within your assessment program, and there's various different features in there, things like standard setting, etc. Are there any other features, or including that, any other features that you think are absolutely essential along the journey, kind of things that you should have in your shopping list? Is there anything you can think of?
It depends, Tim. It depends on your own processes and your organization. So do you tend to do item writing kind of sporadically? Do you do it in one big push? And so you need a platform that supports item writing really well. Do you do item writing asynchronously and virtually throughout the year? Look at those types of things that you do. So item writing is great to have in a platform, and you don't want it to be where you have to spend half a day training your SMEs on how to use the item writing platform, right? Yeah. So I refuse to do that. I'm like, your SMEs are valuable and their time is valuable. So I don't want to use up my time to do that. So it has to be not complex, easy to use, plug and play. Standard setting in a platform is great to have, as long as you can access that raw data that your psychometrician has to be able to check everything and run everything how they want, drop this rater, do this with this outlier. All of that stuff is important. I think that standard setting as a feature is great. I want people to use it with caution. Don't just do it without a psychometrician's help or advice and just like get this answer and be like, oh yeah, that's my cut score. Like, did you check everything? Like,
cut score 70. It's fine.
Yeah, cut score's always 70. If it comes out as 72, let's just make it 70.
Yeah.
I hope that listeners are picking up the sarcasm there, but I'm in trouble if they're not, right? Standard setting, yes, but that's sort of above and beyond. I think that delivery, presentation and user interface for your candidates is important. Does it look good, or does it look like it's the beta version of something from 2002? Like, that's important. If you're in a high stakes situation and I get online and it looks like crap, I do not have a good impression of that product. What kind of item types do you need, right? Are you just multiple choice with STEM, text and response, or a picture? Then that's fine. You don't need to go with a platform that can do 3-dimensional X-ray, blah, 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 right? That's really cool. Do you have the resources to build those items in a way that is legally defensible? It's not just going to be super cool and my SMEs just get to make them. There's other things that come into play with that. So I think it's important to know what you need, but also what you don't need. And to look at your own features as a certification body. What do we do things as they are now? Where do we hope to go with them? But what is kind of beyond our scope, right? What is something we're not ever going to need that? So I don't want to have to pay for it.
Yeah. And do you think there's always a degree of compromise needed sometimes? Do you need to go in with the mindset that, all right, you've been doing it this way for 10 years now, that we're going to need to compromise in some places? Do you think you need to have a little bit of an open mind in that way? I
don't really like compromise as a life principle, and anybody who knows me will be like, yeah, that's not her. That saying, it is what it is. I hate that saying. I hate that. Yeah. No, don't accept. No, change it. I will say this about our industry though. If you go in and you shop around and they don't have, you can't find something that fits how you've been doing things. I think you should look at how you've been doing things, because I think we've got a lot of really good platforms out there, and most of them do some really good best practice things. And so if they're like, we don't support that, whatever it is that you're talking about, take a look at whatever it is that you're asking for. And maybe it's just not something that's done anymore, or there's a reason that it's not done. And I think that as far as compromise goes, the only thing that you might need to compromise on is because what you want is too expensive. Because sometimes those, creating a great performance-based test is incredibly expensive, even if that performance-based test is computer-based, not physically, but like, working through a medical chart or whatever. Those are all more expensive to make. So you've got to be able to, but I don't think you should compromise on, your integrity or the number of SMEs you can have accessing the platform, or, there should not be limits on stuff like that. But I do think the sky's the limit. You can build whatever test you want if you have enough money and enough resources and SMEs time, right? You need your SMEs depending on which area you're in. So I think before you want to compromise, I think reach out to me or Tim or, get some advice on, this looks really cool and it's shiny and new, but I don't know that I need all of this. And you probably don't at the end of the day.
And I think what's interesting. So we're talking about innovations, and obviously there's going to be a lot of kind of big players going to Anaheim, and exhibiting and things like that. But not everyone in the world that does a good assessment solution is going to be there. I think it's something worth bearing in mind, because I've got nearly 300 platforms and services listed that are going to be on the marketplace soon on the Test Community Network, and some of them might not be based in America, or might not be able to afford to go to innovations or something like that, but or just don't have it on the radar. But they've got something incredible that is going to be right up your street. So, I suppose do you always have to go to innovations to find the platform of your dreams, Amanda?
No, sorry, innovations. I've actually gone to ATP every year since I was in grad school. So I don't know how long, it's been a long time, 15 years or something. And this will be the first year that I'm not going, because I'll be on a trip with my daughter for her 21st birthday. And it's an excellent conference. It's great for education. It's great for learning. It's great for networking. But it is rather expensive. And there are lots of programs or lots of platforms that don't go. Also, because the certification bodies that they might market to don't go. So because they're also a little bit smaller or medium size, they don't really send somebody to that conference. And I think that Google is your friend. I mean, Google, LinkedIn, reach out and ask somebody, ask for recommendations, reach out to another certification body that you know of, or another certification body in your industry, or that is accredited to 17024 NCCA. What are you guys using? What do you like? What do you don't like? Most certification bodies are very quick to give you their opinion on, this is what I like, and this is what I don't like, and this is why I use them, and here's where I compromised, right? So I think again, innovations, great conference, been going forever. But if you're not going to make it, there's, and lots of places, lots of platforms have great videos online now that you can kind of take a gander at what they've got, what their features are. Here's a quick demo call. Hopefully they won't stalk you too much after that. Could that be my request from this? As a podcast host, I'm asking people, when I do a demo call with you and I say, great, I'll keep you in mind when I have future clients, please, stop emailing me. But
I think, go on. Sorry, finish that.
No, I was just going to say they're not all there. And it's funny because sometimes I have people who are like, oh yeah, we've been shopping for 6 months. And I'll say, did you hear about so-and-so? And they're like, oh no, I haven't heard about them. And I'm like, how's that even possible? But I'm happy to help anybody. I would be like, what size is your program? What's your volume? What's your budget? And I would be able to make a recommendation. Here's where you should start.
Absolutely. And I did something similar at EATP, and I'm happy to do this the same innovations because I'll be there. If you want to take a walk around the exhibition hall with me and just we can chat about what it is you need and what you're looking for. I can point you in some directions. I'm not going to make unbiased kind of recommendations someplace because there are people that I know and love out there, but I will definitely kind of give you some pointers in as fair way as possible. Because the problem is whenever you ask someone, there's always that underlying little bit of bias in there, isn't there? To kind of people that you've kind of grown up and love there. So it is always it's good to ask multiple people. Don't just ask me for my opinion because you'll be buying the same platforms going forward. So, but shop around, ask some questions, ask lots of people. AI is going to be a big part of innovations. I just got an AI certificate, specialist award.
I heard that you did. Congratulations. Yeah. Where's your little lapel pin on your hoodie? That's what I need to see. Where's that?
This is my only slight beef with the awarding body that did it, is that it's going to take them another month to give me a digital badge for it. So CIM, you need to sort that out because a digital badge should be an instant thing. Anyway, there's a company.
Did they compromise on that? How did that happen?
I don't know, but
as an AI certificate program, what?
If CIM are listening, they need to go out and buy a new platform. Although the actual test platform, sorry, just to clarify, the test platform that I did the exam in and the proctoring solution were absolutely perfect. It's just their business systems that.
Are you going to tell us who it was?
I will do actually. I'll say it was Questionmark was the test delivery platform, and that was really good. Apart from, and I've fed this back, because they allow the awarding organization to design the layout of the exam interface. CIM had put the end test button right next to where I normally would click for next. So I had to physically stop myself from clicking end test each time. It wouldn't have ended it straight away, but that was
it's distracting.
It was a little bit distracting. Yeah. And then the other one was for the proctoring solution that was in there was Proctorio, and that worked really well with it worked really well with my browser and everything worked fine. So I was quite happy with that. It was actually my first proctoring exam experience, high stakes exam experience. Played around with the platforms for loads, but never actually taken an exam. So anyway, AI is going to be a big feature. There you go. Question.
I was trying to distract you from that question. I was trying to.
And I tell you what, should you always pick a platform that's AI enabled? That's the kind of.
Do you think you're going to use AI in the next 5 to 10 years? Then sure. And what type of AI do you want to use? And are you going to use it responsibly? And do they use it responsibly? What is their statement, right? Do they have one of those statements that's about transparency and about how they're using it ethically and responsibly and whatever? If they're going to tell you that they can write 100 test questions for your test and you don't need any subject matter experts, and they're just what are the guidelines that they provide around their AI? Do they just make it sound nice and shiny and pretty and they kind of gloss over? No, ask for a demonstration. Do they have something that's just going to help your SMEs write some distractors or create some distractors? Cool. Just be careful that you are not kind of swayed by how easy it's all going to be. You've got to be able to defend it all later. And it also depends on the stakes of your exam, right? If you're low stakes and but high stakes, you're still going to have some defensibility issues. And everybody is talking about AI left and right, and it's one of those things where it depends. It depends on so many things: content, SME accessibility, legal defensibility, all the things. So I think if you're interested in using it, sure, but is it an actual thing that you're going to actually implement? Are you going to change your processes enough in the near future to be able to need that? And is it a breaking point? Is it this platform offers AI, this platform doesn't? What are you going to compromise on? Compromise on AI might be easier to compromise than on how many SMEs can access your platform at the same time or whatever, or for free. Yeah. I would make a list of priorities, and then I would go down that list when you are checking in with your vendors and shopping around. And AI might be at the top of your list. I don't know.
It's interesting. I don't know how many people would have, 'cause I imagine at the moment people would have a kind of standard list of things that they're doing now before AI came along, and they'd want to replicate those. But you're going to have to, I would say, be thinking about where you can make the most out of AI and where it can start to, so you need to have it on your radar. Absolutely.
Yes, agreed. Have it on your radar, but the group that is like, oh, we have this AI feature and it's freaking amazing. And you're like, great. I am never going to get my board of directors to approve that in the next, or in this cycle or whatever. Yeah. So it's cool. If you think it's there and you want to use it and you want to work towards it, then absolutely it becomes something that's really important to your platform choice.
There was one email, so ATP emails have been flowing in quite steadily now. Innovations. I have to say innovations because, it's the conference is innovations. ATP is the association. I need to get that right in my head. Everyone needs to get that
whatever. Right. We all know what you mean.
I know. But so there's one email kind of flowed in the other day, and they mentioned about micro apps, micro AI apps, which I kind of like the idea of, because the idea of that is that you could almost test out the water with kind of these additional bolt-ons that you can plug in, so you don't have to go fully embedded with AI on board. And I think you do need to have that switch within your platform where you can say some of these programs are AI enabled or AI supported, and these ones aren't. Keep AI away from, or not prepared for it, not ready for it. Just that. So I do think you need to have that ability. But that kind of micro AI kind of app feature was something that I kind of like the idea of, just the idea of bolting it on as you go through. So and
I think that helps your SMEs and your stakeholders get used to the idea. It's baby steps, it's like, I love baby steps. So I think that's a good one.
Yeah, I think that one of the phrases they were using was things like task by task innovation or something. So it's quite quite good. Yeah, quite nice.
I like baby steps. Do you remember that movie with Bill Murray?
No.
Oh, dude.
No. I'll make a note of that. Baby steps.
Baby steps with.
Is it like Baby Boom? That was one of my favorites.
No, it's Baby Steps, and Bill Murray is. It's classic. It's great. Baby steps. You got to watch it.
I'll have to watch that
because I say it all the time. Yeah, it's very old.
One of my other kind of questions. So I think culture is an important factor. But do you think culture is an important factor in cultural kind of fit for you? Is that an important factor when you're selecting a vendor?
I feel like if I say no, that then I am like canceled. I think that cultural fit is important, that the business relationship is what you want it to be. Are they responsive? Are they transparent? Are they accountable to you? Are they respective of your culture? Right?
Yeah.
Do they respect impartiality? Are they open with, NDAs and conflict of interest? All of that stuff I think you can pick up on. As far as, do they support DEI initiatives? How's their accessibility, right? Like, accessibility is huge in testing. And to me, that's part of a platform's culture. How much have they prioritized that accessibility? So I guess actually, yes, it does matter when I think of it that way. When I think of it as, if I'm at a conference and I'm vendor shopping or helping somebody vendor shop, and I walk up to a booth and it's, to use your example we talked about previously, it's all men versus it's all women. I don't really care about that, as long as they're not all, I think I said a bad word earlier, but as long as they're not jerks, and as long as they speak not in a condescending manner, right? So if a new CB goes up and they're like, I'm just brand new, we're building a certification, tell me what your platform does. Can they speak in a way that those people understand what they're offering? And are they trying to swindle them into something that they don't need? That is my biggest pet peeve about platforms across the board, is we get somebody who comes to us and they're like, we pay $1 bajillion a year because they have this awesome item banking system. And then we find out that this group has like 2 fixed forms of 100 items each. And they're paying out the wazoo for something that they clearly do not need, that somebody was like, look at, it's super shiny and new and pretty, and you guys need this. It's the latest in innovation. And that just pisses me off to no end. because they're trying to do the right thing and they're throwing all of this money down the drain. So I think that kind of culture part of it, right, is how they respect smaller to medium groups, how they respect the accreditation process, right? Are they helpful with that, or are they, just kind of like, that's not our problem? It really is. It should be everybody's issue. I think that's where culture matters. I don't know if that was answering your question.
No, you're absolutely right. So I think the two businesses need to kind of work together. The teams need to work together, and I think sometimes you might work with one person at a supplier. That might be your account manager, but if they leave, what's the rest of the culture?
Yeah,
is the rest
and
of
is there high turnover of your account manager? Are you going to have a different person all the time? So the person that you signed up with, you're like, I really like them. I feel like they're going to go to bat for me. What is the turnover like at that company? How many account managers are there? How often do you get switched around from one manager to the next? I think it's great to ask them for a recommendation, a referral to a CB or a testing program, education or whatever that is their client. And then it's also great to just Google around and find somebody that uses them. And you can do that by looking at candidate handbooks to see what platform they're on, and then talk to those certification managers or those test program developers and say, what has your experience been? I mean, I think that counts for a lot. If you're going to be, you get to know somebody and it's a relationship and you're going to be with them for, 3 to 5 years or whatever. It can make your life kind of miserable if you get bounced around and then you're sort of onboarding every time that you have to deal with a new account manager who doesn't know you or your team. So it's important.
It definitely
is important.
And if you do want to know, listener, who is working with a particular supplier, I have a long list of that. I keep all that data, so get in touch. Okay, so we've talked about culture, and I think the thing I just want to add there is that you might meet a super nice team at the conference or innovations or on the stand and things like that, and really get on well with them and really mesh with them. But you're going to need to meet the rest of the team. And we kind of, we talked about kind of account managers kind of split out, but you're never going to just be working with that sales team that are present there. And you just need to look, peel the layers. You will find that in most cases, they're absolutely fantastic. But you might also find that there is nobody else because it's just a one, person shop, or there's a very small team and the CEO is kind of, and that's okay in some situations, but is it going to be okay for you? And support as well, things like that. Where is their support based? I was talking to someone the other day based in Canada, and I was asking about what one of the things that might influence their decision. They were saying about support location, because you need to make sure someone's on the other end of the phone. That might be a compromise that you make. It depends on what it is you're doing and where you're going. If you want, I suppose what I'm saying is you don't always have to buy local, but sometimes you need to just have that in mind as a kind of a factor.
Think about your time zones and your darn bank holidays, right? I mean, do they shut down for certain periods of the year and nobody's around? It's just, those are all things to disappear.
Ask. I would say, there's a number of things that matter. So, kind of second to last question. So, this is going to be my last question, then we're going to go to the bonus question. But is there anything that immediately starts ringing alarm bells to you when you're looking at a vendor and their stand and their stall and their materials, etc.? Is there anything that would set off any immediate alarm bells?
If they say, so two things. One is if you say, I need you to be able to, I have a candidate management program, or I use an AMS, associate management program, or or an LMS, right? If you're education, can you talk to my system? And they say, oh yeah, no problem. We can integrate really, really easily. You need to ask them how much that costs immediately. And if they gloss that over, or they try to tell you that it's, I don't know, unless it's already existing for a client and it's full, single sign-on integration, you've got to get those costs up front, because don't sign on with them with the hope that in the future it's going to attach to your program and talk to it.
Yeah.
APIs take a while. Depending on the organization, they can take a long time. They can be very expensive, or they can be nice and quick if it's a smaller developer, whatever. But just those types of things, and get them in writing in your contract. I expect this to be done by this point, or else we're defunct. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens a lot, and maybe I just see it more, maybe I'm more sensitive to it because I'm a 17024 assessor, is that groups will sometimes say that they are accredited.
Mhm.
So like a remote proctor organization or a platform will say, we're 17024 accredited. And they usually won't do it in writing because they get in trouble for that. But, and it might be miscommunication on their part where their sales guy doesn't understand how that works, which is, that's corporate culture. They should educate their people, but they're not accredited. They don't get the vendors and the platforms don't get accredited by 17024. They might have clients, certification and testing programs who are accredited or accredited by higher ed, but it's not the actual vendor itself. So just be really careful if they're trying to tell you that. No. And that leads to another great question, is that if you are accredited or want to be accredited, it is good to ask them what they know about that. Do they have the documentation to support you to turn in as evidence for your accreditation process? Lots of the big ones do now, because they've got groups that are accredited and they're used to turning out, here's our security stuff, here's our policies and procedures on this, here's our training on this. But it's important to ask. And if they don't have that, it might be a little bit of a negotiation tactic with you to say, well, I'm accredited. You would be able to say now that you're used by an accredited body, give me a discount and I'll help you with your documentation for that process. So nice. I've had a group do that and it worked out really well for them. I mean, I helped them too, but they got a really good deal. And then the vendor was really happy with it because they got all this documentation. They were able to say, we've got this package ready for you to go if you're accredited. Yeah. So it worked out really well. But those are my red flags and not. Yeah, and just be careful of the bells and whistles. Do you actually need all those cool things that they're telling you about? Yeah.
I think it's going with a set priority list of things that you definitely need.
Yes.
Try not to stray too much from that, because you're going to be wandering into probably higher costs or unnecessary features or unnecessary burdens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, I hope that's been some great tips and advice. Obviously, like I say, I'm going to be at Innovations and Amanda is available as well, not at the conference, but will be available if you want to have a chat with her. I'm sure you're more than happy, aren't you, Amanda?
Yeah. And if you're taking people around and you have a question, Tim can just, WhatsApp me and we can figure it out as we go.
Yeah. Don't ask me any psychometric questions, please.
He can pass it along.
Amanda's my expert on that one.
Okay, don't ask me any marketing questions because I'll just ask Tim, so it's fine.
And the AI ones as well. Right, we'll say what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the bonus question in a second. So we'll say goodbye for everyone who's listening on the publicly available podcast. And like I say, the bonus question will be available on the Test Community Network on the It Depends podcast page there. So thank you very much, Amanda. And
yes,
we'll see you all listeners, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much.
Have fun at Innovations without me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.